Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Rhody Football Game Day. And most importantly, gentlemen, welcome to the second round of the FCS Playoffs. We are back on another episode of Rhody Football Game Day after a big-time win against Central Connecticut State, 21-17, the final there. And now the Rams will face off against Mercer. Myself, Noah McLean, Connor DeRosa to my right, Johnny Blair to my left. We're going to break down a heck of a lot of things today, including the first round of the SCF Playoffs. We're going to talk competition. We're going to talk some game preview and predictions, and a heck of a lot more. So stay tuned right here as we're just getting started on today's episode of Playoff Football right here on Rhody Football Game Day. Well, guys, as we know, the first round of the FCS Playoffs, a lot of excitement, some upsets, and some teams taking care of business. But right now, everything that happened in round one is in the rearview mirror for the teams that did succeed. But before we get to that point, let's talk about what happened in just every single game. Let's start with number 16, New Hampshire, the CAA rival of Rhode Island. They got knocked out and upset by UT Martin in a blowout fashion, 41-10 over there in New Hampshire. You saw that 236 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns, while the Wildcats only had 6 first downs in the entire game. When you think about UNH and the capabilities that they've had all season and in previous seasons, that is not Wildcat football. But dare I say, I am very content with that score right there.
Yeah, that's just what happens in the playoff. In a one-game elimination game, anything can happen. And moving on we go to Villanova, where they led a second-half comeback against Eastern Kentucky, where they won 22-17 behind stellar performance from running back David Abbott, who had 17 carries for 94 rushing yards, along with 2 receptions for 75 receiving yards, getting it done for that Wildcat offense.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, next up was Richmond, the co-CAA champions. Just like New Hampshire, they took a loss. It was a great day for the Rams, not only for us on the field, but some of our rivals. They kind of cleared up that co-champion. I wasn't always a big fan of it, but they lost in a shocker, 20-16 to Lehigh, who had a receiver with 10 catches, 137 yards, and a receiving touchdown from Jeffrey Jamiel.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And guys, dare I say that momentum from the week before, Lehigh, I don't know if you guys saw that tear down of the goalpost and they tossed it into the river. How bizarre. That's becoming way too much of a common theme. These schools are just, I don't even know if it's exciting anymore at the FBS level. But to see Lehigh do it, I got a little excited, I won't lie to you. But I digress. Abilene Christian routed Northern Arizona 24-0 behind 521 yards of offense and 3 interceptions. Both sides were going well for those guys. The Tarleton State beat Drake 43-29. No, that is not the rapper. That's the football team right there. In an offensive shootout that saw Tarleton State quarterback Victor Gabelis pass for 337 yards and 2 touchdowns to complement his day. And then receiver Darius Cooper haul in 190 receiving yards. So very impressive stuff all around the board.
Yeah, some compare Tarleton State to Kendrick Lamar. Should I go there?
Oh, man.
But we're going to move on. Number 14, Montana, took down Tennessee State 41-27 as Montana allowed negative 19 rushing yards. What a day defensively for them. And then also on the other end, rushing for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns, just absolutely dominating the line of scrimmage for them.
I'll tell you what, negative 19 rushing yards is crazy. I know in college sacks count as rushing yards, but it's still a crazy day for that defense. And then number 12, Illinois State took care of business against a tough Southeastern Missouri State squad, 35-27, one of the closer games of the weekend, thanks to a 4-interception, 3 fumble recovery game from the defense to complement a quality performance. A nod to the Southern Missouri State passing offense, which almost had 600 yards passing, 567. Crazy passing game for them, but just wasn't able to get the job done against just an overall bigger, more physical team.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a big number right there, and it kind of almost boggles your mind when you look through the amount of yardage that these teams are able to pick up. But then again, you say to yourself, oh wait, these are the best teams in the country, so it makes sense that we're seeing these numbers because teams are playing their best football right now. Somebody that we saw do that was the number 10 ranked Rhode Island Rams defeated Central Connecticut State 21-17 behind another 200-plus yard rushing performance by running back Malik Grant, who finished with 29 carries for 223 yards. And, let's jump right into it because, guys, first of all, that was fantastic. You can't ask for much more of a guy, a performance out of a guy like that running back Malik Grant. He's just done everything right, and he just continues to showcase everything that he's capable of. But what for the round one is we have a lot to take care of. 16 teams remain after that first round, and let's run through them right now. Number one seeded overall, Montana State taking on UT Martin. I actually have a buddy that goes to Montana State. He's confident, but UT Martin, as we saw, they are not to be messed with. They are a good football team. North Dakota State taking off Abilene Christian. The South Dakota State takes on number 14 Montana. South Dakota versus Tarleton State. UC Davis takes on Illinois State. Incarnate Word takes on Villanova. Mercer against your Rhode Island Rams. That's 2 p.m. on ESPN+. Make sure to tune into that one. Idaho versus Lehigh to round it out. The winners will advance to the FCS Playoff quarterfinals next weekend, so we will be very excited to see what they can do. And guys, let's jump right into some of these things that Rhode Island specifically has been able to do over the last couple of weeks here, because we've seen records left, right, forward, backwards. You name it. There are just guys doing so many things well, and there's multiple Rams that really jumped into the record books. And Johnny, if you want to touch on the first one here.
Yeah, and it's going to start, of course, with the star of this Rhode Island offense, who has just absolutely taken control in the last few weeks of this season. Malik Grant shattered the single-season rushing yards record set by David Jamison at 1,320 yards in 2001. And now Malik Grant is at 1,390 and counting. Now we're going down to Mercer. We'll just wait to see what he does down there. He remains tied with running back Jaden McKenzie, who set that record last year with the all-time single-season touchdown record with 13, and is now second all-time in single-season points scored with just 18 more needed to hit Damian Riley's record of 102 total points scored for this Rhode Island offense. He's just been absolutely fantastic, especially in these last few weeks towards the end of the regular season, and of course just against Central Connecticut.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Malik Grant got off to kind of a slow start. I was a little worried about this running back room. We had, three guys. In college especially, you don't see it too much in the NFL, but you love to see a bell cow back in college. Yep. And, Malik Grant held under 50, held under 70 yards in the first few weeks. But down the stretch, he's running like Derrick Henry, just better as the season goes on. Okay, very different style, very different build, but he's picking up steam each and every game. And next up, kind of his running mate, wide receiver Marquise Buchanan. We talk about him all the time. The wide receiver one on this team became the 8th Ram ever to account for 1,000 receiving yards, and needs 3 more catches to crack into the top 5 all-time single-season receptions. Also, to add on to that, Malik Grant, like Johnny just talked about, rushed for over 1,000 yards. Marquise Buchanan over 1,000 yards. The first teammates at University of Rhode Island ever to have 1,000 yards in the same season. Just a fantastic season from the skill positions, and we need more of that going forward against Mercer.
Yeah, guys, you guys just nailed it on the head with two guys that have been mentioned multiple times throughout this year. They are kind of headliners, so to say. But the next guy, he's kind of an underappreciated hero unless you're in the locker room or on the sideline and you kind of know the ins and outs of this team. But this guy, Ty Groff, the kicker for Rhode Island, 12 more points scored to crack into Rhody career points scored, top 5 only as a true sophomore. This guy is young, he is talented, and the best thing about it, guys, is he is so humble. He knows what he has to do. He goes out and gets it done. He tied his own season, single season high in points scored with 66, sitting at 5th all time in a single season, and just 1 more point after attempting to sit 5th all time in career PATs. So those are another one right there. And Johnny, we can just continue to do so, but what do you got for us next up?
Yeah, I'm going to switch from offense, talking about Malik Grant, now just to the defense. It's going to start with linebacker Cole Brockwell, who's just 3 tackles shy of becoming the team's first 100-plus tackler since 2019, a 5-year span. He's been fantastic all season long. And now moving to the secondary, Club Freddie, as Connor likes to call him, Freddie Malay, 2 pass breakups shy of 5th place all-time in breakups. Currently has 22. And then just the defense as a whole, broke last season's single-season sack record of 32, getting 33 last week, and we're still counting. Season's still alive here, going down to Mercer tomorrow.
And before we pass it off to Connor here, for just a moment, I want to go back because, guys, when we saw Freddie Malay go down and kind of get that hand injury, we were unsure if we were even going to see Freddie Malay for a couple of weeks. And what does he do? He goes out, he wraps that hand up, and all of this is going on while the dude is essentially playing with one hand. And no matter what, he has been so good. He reads the ball so well in that back option there, and he just has been fun to watch no matter what. And now he's got it off, and he is fully ready to go. Now, guys, another thing that we do want to touch on today is the Rams do find themselves among the 16 teams still playing. It is worth noting, however, that one of the major events of the offseason, sneaking by early National Signing Day, Rhody found themselves landing a total of 6 recruits. So let's take a moment and find out who will be rocking that beloved Keene blue not too far out. Let's start with running back Latavius Tay Welch. First off, man, what a name. I love that. I'm already excited. From Coca, Florida, played high school at Eagles High School, 5'8", 180 pounds. He's the lead recruiter to get him in here was Coach Mike Flanagan. Comes to Rhody with over 15 other Division I offers, a big pickup for the Rams.
And now the one who will be blocking for him, it'll be offensive lineman Dayan Maroof Arabi. He's from Plantation, Florida, He played high school at American Heritage High School, a 6'3", 290-pounder. The lead recruiter was also Coach Mike Flanagan, and he comes to Rhody with 12 other Division I offers. He won a regional championship this past year, so congratulations to him. And yeah, we can't wait to see him rocking that Keene blue.
Yeah, next up is running back Terrence Campbell from Providence, Rhode Island, just like Marquise, just like Sebastian Thomas on the men's basketball team. Played high school at LaSalle Academy, 6'1", 220. Lead recruiter again was Coach Mike Flanagan, doing a great job out there. He's played running back and linebacker in high school and rushed for over 1,000 yards with over 100 tackles on the way to semifinals in the playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of just talent across the board. Defensive back Jamal Davis Jr. from Danville, New Hampshire. Played high school at St. Thomas More. That's over in Connecticut. Shout out Johnny Blair. 6 foot, 200 pounds. Lead recruiter. Shout out Coach Chris Laurenti for bringing in Jamal Davis Jr. He was the team captain and 3-year starter in high school and a massive pickup over multiple other CAA offers. So the Rams scooped him up and said, all right, we want to see you in a Rhode Island jersey over any other of those CAA schools.
Yeah, and now at the tight end, it'll be Liam Hubox from Brookfield, Mass. He played at Tabor Academy. He's 6'5", 230 pounds. The lead recruiter was Coach Tyler Loftus, and he is upside to be an all-around tight end. He can block, he has size, he has speed. He can do it all at the tight end position.
Yeah, last up is somebody that's for the brand, kicker punter Liam Kennett from North Kingston, Rhode Island, hometown guy. Look for him to make an impact. Played high school football at North Kingstown's high school. 6'5" as a kicker and punter. What are they feeding them in North Kingstown? That's kind of crazy. Lead recruiter was once again Mike Flanagan. He was an all-state player, effective as both a kicker and a punter. And also, fun fact, went to the same high school as Gabe Slope.
Well, we've seen what Gabe Sloat can do. We'll see if he can maybe keep things going on a different side of the ball, but alas. But to the 6 signings, welcome to Rhody Nation, and we will definitely see you soon rocking the Keene blue out on the Meade Stadium turf. So we're going to jump right into some of the previews of this week after we got through all those records because, boy, there are just a lot of things to look at. But, Connor, why don't you start us off at some of the looks at Mercer here for the first time?
Yeah, Mercer's been a strong team all year, sitting at 10-2, 7-1 in conference. One of those losses being against none other than Alabama, okay? Yep. That's impressive to even, they lost 7-52, even putting up 7 points against a team of that caliber is impressive. The Rams early in the season when they played an FBS team got shut out. The Mercer was even able to put up 7 against an even better team. So this offense is kind of scary. They put up, I fucking stupid. Okay, don't nobody move. They put up over 30 points at least in the last 7 games. So this offense, they're just humming, and they're a tough physical defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll see what they can do when you think about that offense. And, just to your point there, Connor, being able to put up just numbers on the board is exactly what you have to do, slow and steady. Mercer averages almost 34 points per game while holding opponents to merely 20 points a game. There is not a side of the football where they are lesser than 1. That's why they're in this position. That's why they're the 7th-ranked team. The Bears have a stout run defense that gives just 2.3 yards per carry, as they also get after the quarterback with 40 sacks on the season. So this is something, guys, 2 points that come to mind immediately when those two things are talked about. Number one, of course, we saw Malik Grant, right? We just talked about him and his capability to run the football. How will he phase up against this Mercer defense that does not allow the run game to get productive at all? And then the second thing is Hunter Helms, right? Let's talk about this because he comes into a position where he comes in late season. Devin Farrell goes down. He has to come up and be big all of the sudden. And I want to go back to one play where he rolled out of the pocket on the run and threw that touchdown in that game last week. Now, I know there was a couple of times where he gave up an interception that didn't look the best, but that play right there showed me that he has the capability to do really special things, and he's going to need to be able to get out of that pocket, scramble, and stay on his feet. When you see that 40 sacks on the year, that's just an unbelievable number.
And yeah, Mercer imposes their will through the trenches. They've run the ball over 160 more times than they've thrown the ball in this season. That's just an insane stat in my opinion. They're getting it done through the run game. They don't even want to pass sometimes. Their defense also has a knack for forcing turnovers, which you just mentioned. Hunter Helms had a couple of interceptions, has had a little bit of interception problem since he's come in and filled in for Devin Farrell. 9 fumble recoveries and 22 interceptions during the regular season for this Mercer defense. So Hunter Helms and the entire Rhode Island team is going to have to hold on to that ball tight. And Mercer, just a very well-rounded team, makes very few mistakes, making for the Rams having their toughest matchup of the season, of course, as we move on in the playoffs.
Yeah, guys, next up is some players to watch. And we talked about that ground game, 160 more rushing attempts than pass attempts. And that's kind of led by Dwayne McGee. 84 rushing yards per game, over 1,000 yards on the ground, and 8 touchdowns on the season. If the Rhode Island Rams want to walk out of Mercer with a victory, it's going to stop with stopping that guy on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of guys to watch in that game, including wide receiver Keelan Parsons, 38 receptions, 15.7 yards per reception, 600 receiving yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns, along with that resume there of the receiving yards. And then 8 players with at least 12 receptions and 100 receiving yards in 2024. I mean, guys, that just goes to show why this team is so well-rounded, so diverse, and it's next guy up mentality, because you have no idea where that ball is going to be going. And that's on top of, think about how many times they run the football and the amount of receivers that still have those numbers. And then you talk about Riley Adcock, who has yet to give up a sack this season, leading a dominant front 5 in the trenches.
Yeah, we did just talk about how Mercer gets it done in the trenches. You mentioned their running back, and then, of course, their offensive line is just absolutely stellar. But now going towards their defensive line, Braden Manley, Arias Nash, Andrew Zock combined for 22 sacks and 38 tackles for a loss. That's almost as potent as Gabe Solomon's, A.J. Pena, and Wesley Neal, our little trio on our defensive line. They also have a trio of defensive backs led by T.J. Moore, Miles Redding, and Danezis Miller, who have combined for 17 of the team's 22 interceptions. On average, per defensive back, that's almost 5 for all of them.
Yeah, unbelievable. As we jump into the kind of the flip side, let's talk about, Connor, we'll start with you. Just some of the things to look at for this Rhode Island team to go down into enemy territory. This, again, we don't travel this far often, but now you got to just put everything that you've done before kind of in the rearview mirror. What does Rhode Island have to do, and who should we look for?
Yeah, there's 2 points I think Rhode Island really needs to hone in on. And first is Malik Grant and running the football. This Mercer defense is only giving up 2.3 yards per carry. So they're very stout on defense. But that does not mean the Rhode Island Rams can get away from running the ball. That is the reason we are in this position, giving Malik Grant the ball at least 20 times a game. Even if they're stopping it, get him to on a swing route. And the next up is Hunter Helms. Okay, Hunter Helms needs to play a clean game. We spoke on this Mercer defense once again, having so many turnovers this season. And Hunter Helms, his one issue has been turnovers. So creating a safe, clean pocket, and the receivers catching the ball. We need safe receptions over the middle, deep shots. I know Hunter loves throwing that deep ball, especially to touchdown Tommy. I'll tell you what, on the broadcast, I think I heard touchdown Tommy about 10 million times, and I was loving it. But maintaining a strong ground game on offense and winning the turnover battle, that might mean we have to get a couple interceptions, but we have to walk out of Mercer winning the turnover battle if we want to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in the game that Rhode Island lost, besides that first one of the season, when you talk about in conference that lost to Delaware, Delaware didn't beat Rhode Island. Rhode Island beat themselves. They were not able to win that turnover battle. There were so many penalties, just self-inflicted wounds that allowed Delaware to regain control, momentum, and eventually win that game. So making sure that you're able to do that. Also, forcing Mercer to put the ball in the air, right? We know how good of backs we have out there. Freddie Millay, we talked about him, and there's so many other guys that we can talk about that will be so fantastic in that field position, but also, just winning the field position in special teams as well, because every part of that is so essential to what the Rams want to do. And with that in mind, guys, let's just talk about game predictions, because right now we can say all we want, but let's talk about what we think will actually occur. Johnny, we'll start with you. Which team and player scores the first touchdown?
For me, I think Rhode Island, they'll start with the ball. I think they're going to try and force their will in the trenches early, and I think it's going to end in a Malik Grant rushing touchdown. We've seen him get in the end zone how many times in these past few weeks. He is the source, this hub of this Rhode Island offense. He's been fantastic, and I think that continues early against Mercer.
Fantastic. And Connor?
Yeah, I'm going kind of fun pick. We saw this guy dominate last week, and I just mentioned him. Touchdown Tommy. I like the Rams going Wildcat, putting Tommy Smith under center and having him run it in around the 2-3 yard line.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick, and I like that pick because we've seen when the Rams are within that 5 yard line, Connor, they kind of just immediately say, all right, Hunter, thanks for getting us down here. We'll take over from here. Touchdown, Tommy, go get it. But, however, I think this weekend, Hunter Helms, we talk about his need to be very good. I think he's going to actually scramble. We've seen him run the football, and he's held on well. I think we're going to see him scramble, get into the end zone for one to start off this game, Rhode Island going up. And then that kind of leads us into the second question, which is going into halftime, which for the first time, I think, one of the first times all season, Rhode Island was leading at halftime against Central Connecticut State. But Johnny, who has the lead going into half?
For me, it's going to be Mercer. We talked about how well-rounded of a team they are, and also kind of the first half woes that this Rhode Island team has had. You combine that, the well-roundedness of Mercer, the quality of the opponent versus just the little bit of the first half struggles, and how good Rhode Island has been in the second half. I think Mercer takes a slim lead, into halftime.
Yeah, I'm piggybacking off of you. I think Mercer goes up at halftime 20-14. I don't think it's a massive deficit, but this Rhode Island team has made their bread and butter in the second half. They've proven that they can come back against, maybe superior teams, talent-wise in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. But I think we're down 4 at half.
I don't mind that pick at all, and I'm going to go kind of similar. I'm actually going to go 17-10. I think we're going to see each team score into the end zone, and I think we're also going to see a field goal or two from both sides. But I think Rhode Island will be hanging around, but they'll kind of need to battle their way back in, especially with how far they're going down now. Of course, here's hoping that they get off to a hot start and take that lead going into half, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Let's talk about, making a play of the game and maybe that player of the game. And guys, I have a fear that you guys are going to steal mine, so I'm actually going to start right here because this guy is he's been the man in the last 2 games, and obviously there's many people that got to this point. But Wesley Neal Jr. Is the guy that immediately comes to mind because he has made, in that when you think about the fourth quarter boys, that he is the guy that got his hand up there to block the kick. And then after one of his teammates blocked one, he turned around and, man, seeing the big fella get mobile like that and catching it with 2 hands, that was one heck of a way. I think Wesley Neal Jr. is the difference maker in this one.
Sure, yeah, and I'm going to stay on the defensive end here. I'm not going to take Wesley Neal, so you're safe with me at least.
All right.
But I'm going to stay on the defensive side. I'm going to take the captain of this Rhode Island defense, Cole Brockwell. Yeah. I think that he has been fantastic this year, and we've talked about how the need for Rhode Island to win the turnover battle this weekend, and I think he's going to force a fumble. and I think he's going to have a fantastic weekend.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. You guys took both of my players, okay? I feel a little robbed over here. I go, no one took Wesley Neal. I was talking to him the other day. I've never seen someone more dialed in class just thinking about the game. I had to ask him for a piece of paper. Guess what he gave me? He gave me part of his playbook that they draw plays on, okay? That man was dialed in, and the Cole Brocco filling gaps, stopping the run will be huge. I'm going to go to the offensive side. Hunter Helms. If Rhode Island's going to win this game, he has to play a clean game. He cannot turn the football over. This Mercer team will run you to death. He needs to play a clean game. Give his defense some rest because we know Mercer's going to run the football as much as they can. So Wesley Neal, Cole Brocco, they're going to be tired. We need Hunter Helms to give them all the rest they can get.
Well, guys, now last but certainly not least, when you think about it, this is the moment that we've kind of all been waiting for, and well, let's be smart. Look across left and right here. Let's see who you guys have. Final score prediction and who takes home a victory.
I've talked a lot about the second half heroics of this team. I think that they have the resilience of a team that deserves to be in the playoffs. They have fought through so much adversity throughout the year. And I don't think this is going to be a perfect game by any means, but I do think that Rhode Island will win this game by a final score of 27-24.
Awesome. Connor?
Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but I'm taking the Rams.
Okay. Wow.
I'm on a scare a little bit, but I think the Rams have another historic comeback. I was talking to Wesley Neal. He said this whole season's been like a movie. He said it's been nothing short of crazy. Every single game, LIU, every single game has been down to the wire. Game could flip on every single play, but I think the Rams win 28-27. We see a Hunter Helms game-winning drive, and this defense holds that Mercer offense to only 7 points in the second half.
I'm going 31-24. Rhode Island. And I'll tell you exactly why. Johnny, I want to go back to what you said. Let's go back, guys, to the very first game of the year, the Miracle at Meade, where this all started, where this season kind of was uplifted and almost saved itself from the very beginning, right? If you lose that game, that is a totally different start to your season. But Rhode Island has battled all year long. They have dealt with injuries. They have dealt with late comebacks. They have dealt with, of course, some losses along the way, right? They have been able to kind of overcome every step along the way. This team feels also like they have been disrespected, right? They were ranked lower than Richmond coming in as co-conference champions. You saw them get a win. Richmond loses, go home. You saw them not get the rankings that they probably deserved that entire regular season. But now you put all of that aside, and I got, again, the Rams coming with a 31-24 victory over Mercer. Well, thank you, everyone, so much for joining us on another episode of Rhody Football Game Day. Again, thank you to Connor DeRosa, Johnny Blair, helping me along the way. And we hope to see you again next week as we await the result of Rhode Island and Mercer. So one more time from the Rhody Football Game Day desk crew, stay safe, stay dry, go Rhody, and hey, down with the Bears.